Rejoining the show now, the GSMC Chip Shot Football Podcast, to talk about a situation that I think has been growing a little bit more as we've gone on through training camp, and it has been the Steelers quarterback battle up until this point because, in all honesty, I think this has gone in a completely different direction than I think a lot of people would have guessed. Just because initially, at the start, when the Steelers signed Russell Wilson, they also brought in Justin Fields. Right away, the thought was, we heard it ad nausea from the media, from Mike Tomlin, that Russell Wilson was in pole position to be the starter. And again, the original plan with Russell being the penciled in starter was for Russ, to lead this team, maybe short term, and have Justin Fields, develop, learn from Russell Wilson anything that he can to potentially step up and be the starter eventually in the near future. But the weird thing about that is that both of them are on contract years, so to think that you have time for Justin to sort of develop into something past this season, he might not even be on the team past this season. So originally, right off the bat, it wasn't something really a well thought out plan. Honestly, if people truly believed that that was going to be a viable situation for the Steelers to go down. But right now, like I said, it's gone in the complete opposite direction because Russ hasn't even taken part in training camp fully up until this point. It's all been about Justin Fields, and the main thing coming out of camp is that he's been looking great. He's been looking very efficient, been looking strong there as a quarterback, not just running it, because obviously that is what he is known for, the athleticism, just the speed that he brings at his size. That's been present pretty much at every camp, at every practice so far. But his arm, the accuracy, the ball placement, the connection, most importantly, that he has been developing with George Pickens, has been very good, especially with all the other wide receivers as well. And on that topic of Justin Fields just continuing to impress, we could potentially see Russell Wilson be joining the rest of this group tomorrow, actually, their next practice. So he's been sort of in and out, hasn't been fully participating. He has taken part in a few warm-ups, some 11-on-11s where he hasn't really had too much mobility. But now, tomorrow could be the first time he's fully cleared to practice fully, so we'll keep an eye on that. But I think Justin Fields now has impressed everybody so much and has done it at such a fast pace that people are starting to think that, maybe Justin could actually take this spot right off the bat in week 1 or something like that. Maybe it's a lot closer than originally thought, with Mike Tomlin saying that Russell was in pole position. That's still the general consensus, I think. We still hear from insiders and just reporters that it is still believed that Russell probably will be the starter up until this point. But just from what I've seen, I think it's hard to sort of bat an eye away from this issue now. And especially the way you heard Mike Tomlin talk about Justin Fields, and now Arthur Smith said something pretty interesting that I think makes me believe that something could be brewing here, basically. I'll get fully more into what I want to say after first I show you guys what Arthur Smith said about this situation. He brought it up here in just a second. Here it is, on Justin Fields and his skill set. He said, he's a dangerous football player with the ball in his hands. It allows you to get creative. Maybe you change up a little bit of a defensive game plan for him. Certainly, he adds a different element. And that creative word is what I fully picked out of his statement. That's the one word I really think makes a difference in how he said it. Because when you think of creative, you think of unpredictable. You think of hard to game plan against, like he alluded to in his statement. And that's everything that the Steelers haven't been in the last few years. They've been all but unpredictable. They've been vanilla, boring, monotone, just a bad sight to see in a day and age where the NFL is all about motion and trickery and wow plays and just great offensive execution, great scheme, great play calling from top to bottom from some of the best teams in the NFL. And the Steelers have really just haven't been that at all. Again, it's a miracle that they made the playoffs with the type of offense that they had. But now that they brought in Arthur Smith and he's using words like creative, it gets fans excited and it gets you to really think that, in my opinion, Justin Fields, in the way that Arthur Smith talked about him, adds that creative ability, adds that it factor that the Steelers haven't had in their system, in their organization for a while now. And that's why they've just been stuck in the same gear for the last few years. And to continue on to that point and get to my next point on the whole idea with this statement, Arthur Smith continued on to say there's a lot of things we can play to his strengths, and that's exciting. Sometimes we're asking him to be aggressive, even in 7-on-7. You have to try to in practice. Nobody wants to see negative plays or if he just checks it down. We got to see what he can really do and what he can see in the pocket and all that stuff. Him having more reps is accelerating that process. And again, that last statement there, where Arthur Smith says having more reps is accelerating the process. That's the biggest thing, I think, with all of this. Surprising everybody, like I said, Justin Fields is in a spot right now where people probably thought that we're going to see this Justin Fields probably into September, maybe October, but now right off the gate, he's looking very much equipped to lead this offense based on his skill set and impressing everybody with his arm. And just from what I've seen in training camp, following it on my phone as much as I can through Twitter and things like that, all the updates that the reporters post and things like that, you can see that Arthur Smith's offense and his scheme is really heavily based around a lot of RPOs, a lot of zone runs, play actions, bootlegs, having your quarterback bring that mobility aspect of their skill set to the overall offense, basically having it almost as a threat in there for opposing defenses to kind of game plan around. And now with that being the case, it gets me to my overall thought on this. Almost like Justin Fields is better suited to fit this offense than maybe Russell Wilson is at this point in each of their careers, because Justin Fields is really heading into the prime of his career. Ideally, you'd like to think that he has another gear to reach and that he's only going to get better from here on out. Whereas Russell Wilson, you kind of know what he is up until this point, and not only you know what he is, but he kind of has lost a step a little bit in the mobility aspect of, his skill set. He's not the same guy that it takes about 8 to 9 seconds in the backfield for anybody to get close to him, to tackle him. Sort of like Kyler Murray now, he's not really that guy. He's more stationary, less athletic, you could say. So for me, in what the offense hopes to be this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think that maybe you could start looking at this like Justin just fits this system a little bit better in terms of being a threat with his legs than Russell Wilson does. And I do acknowledge that it is a little bit unfair to discredit Russell Wilson fully until we actually see him out there with the offense. Hopefully tomorrow we get a better understanding of everything to that point. But again, he's just not the same athlete that I think Justin Fields is. And I don't think that the Steelers want to limit that aspect of their offense potentially. When you have a quarterback that can run, you're going to have to always have somebody there to at least protect against that possibility, because if you don't, guys like Lamar Jackson, guys like Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson, or guys that could actually run and be athletes in the open field, if you don't have a guy there, if you're just completely ignoring the fact that, they are good runners, they're going to kill you for it, and then your defense gets all discombobulated. People start being not disciplined to their gap assignments and things like that. It all just becomes a big mess on the defensive side of the ball if you're not accounting for that guy being a runner. And if you have a quarterback back there trying to operate in this mobile, very active offense with a lot of deceiving factors, a lot of motions and RPOs and things like that, if you don't have that running aspect, it almost makes it easier for the defense to know that, hey, there's no way this guy runs, and if he does run, we're going to catch him 3-4 yards down the field rather than having Justin Fields back there. And if we don't account for him, he's gone 15 yards down the field in a matter of like 3 seconds or something like that. That's, I think, the biggest difference with this. Now, I am riding high on the fact that Justin Fields is looking great in practice, and that is a big difference from the game, obviously, but from what you see and just from what Justin Fields is projected to be up until this point, you need, I think, that mobile quarterback right now to really get everything out of this offense that Arthur Smith wants to get out of it, because you already have the 2 running backs in the backfield, and you add a third one, sort of, with Justin Fields, someone that could actually has shown to really throw the ball well in this offense, at least up until this point, then it becomes a big issue for the opposing defenses. You're going to have to bring more guys closer to the box, leaving your secondary exposed a little bit more somewhat. You can't protect over the top as much. And for the Steelers to not have that bona fide number 2 wide receiver makes it easier for guys like Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, Roman Wilson to get open in some easier coverages than it would if you didn't have that running aspect, that running threat in Justin Fields. That's just my mindset. Maybe Russell fits this offense a little bit better, but that is a little one-sided just because we haven't seen Russell Wilson, but just based on everything we know about each one, that's how I'm feeling about it. I personally didn't think Justin would look this good. I thought it would be more of a struggle, but I've been pleasantly surprised. I'm looking forward to seeing Russell Wilson out there because from what I've seen still so far, the arm accuracy, the placement looks good. I just want to see what happens when maybe the Steelers defense so far through practice knows that Russell really isn't going to run to the level of Justin Fields, and how that maybe makes it harder for the offense, or if it just changes anything at all. So I'll be watching that. I'm sure I'll update you guys on that as it goes on, but that was something based on what Arthur Smith said that caught my attention, and how maybe they're thinking about that possibility as well. I'm sure they're also pretty surprised that Justin has been as effective as he has been so far, but we'll see. That's one of the more intriguing quarterback battles, or just battles in general, that we're going to monitor throughout the rest of training camp. Once the preseason starts, it's going to be super interesting to follow. But now we'll put a pin in that conversation. We'll leave it to another day, and we're going to talk about Justin Jefferson and how he's working through that injury, making sure he gets to being his absolute best out there on the football field. But also, to go along with that, is that the major factor, the X factor that the Vikings need to be successful, or is there another part of this football team that needs to step up on top of that? And to round off this episode, I'm just going to give you guys some injury updates on some major players that have gone down with injuries over this last weekend. So stick around. We got a few more topics to talk about when we return after this break.